How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Ultrasphere. I know it's been about 9 months since my last lore video, and I know a lot of you probably haven't even seen that, so today I'm going to go through a bit of a lore update. I'm going to talk about some of the sphere name changes that have occurred, because there have been several changes since my last video, and I'm also going to give a brief summary or brief tidbit about each of the spheres, for those of you who haven't seen that initial video, and also those of you who have, so just a little bit more information. And so yeah, this is very much a lore video. If you're looking for gameplay, I will probably have more of a gameplay video next week. Alright, first off, a sphere. What is a sphere? What have I been talking about? So a sphere is a realm of sorts, and there are 11 of them that make up the Ultrasphere, which is like a international governing body similar to what the United Nations are in our world. And also it is a tournament, so it's kind of like the Olympics in that way too, where each of these 11 spheres come together and they compete, and it's everyone's dream to compete in the Ultrasphere tournament and win. So now I'm going to go through the spheres that have had a name change since my initial video, and then talk a little bit more about them. Okay, so first up we have Shackwater. Shackwater was initially backwater, so if you see backwater in any of my old videos, just know it is now Shackwater. So Shackwater is a very swampy sphere. Actually, in the north it's more of a mountainous region, but in the south it's very swampy. It was cut off from the other spheres for a long time, and it was initially a colony, so when it was cut off from its resources, it didn't have a whole lot to go on. It's not very developed, and it's very rundown, so you're going to see a lot of bandits, a lot of pirates coming out of this sphere. But it's also a very spooky sphere, so there's a lot of supernatural phenomenon going on. And when I release the next set, so set 1 focused on Shackwater, when I release the expanded version of set 1, I'm going to be focusing on that whole supernatural side of it, which I'm excited for because I very much enjoy that kind of thing. So that's Shackwater. Next up we have the Kingdom of the Ark, which was initially the Archipelago, now it's the Ark. So the Kingdom of the Ark is one of 3 major powers that share the same sphere, but they each get their own representative on the international stage. But the Kingdom of the Ark is one of them. They are in the south. They're a collection of tropical islands. They have a very strong tourist industry because a lot of people just like to go to those tropical beaches and enjoy themselves and get away from the happenings of the other spheres. But they are at war quite a bit with their rival across the sea, who I will talk about towards the end. Okay, so that's the Ark. Next up is the Styre, originally Winchester, now it's just the Styre. It's a very open, expansive place, not a whole lot of high development. There's a bunch of small towns that are very independent of one another, sort of like a city-state type thing, except they're not really big enough to be considered cities, more just small towns. And there's not a whole lot of collaboration going on between them. So next up is Cryozole, which was originally ISO, now it's Cryozole. Cryozole is very cold in the north. It's very harsh in the north, and the people that come from there reflect that. But most of the large population centers and development happens in the south, where it's more temperate, and there's a lot happening down there. Quick side note, as I go through some of these spheres, we're not going to be focusing on them very much in the coming sets, so that's why I'm not giving super in-depth lore about them yet. But as we approach their set releases, we'll start talking more about their lore, and you'll get tidbits of the lore here and there when I focus on some of the other spheres, because they're all connected. Alright, Next up is Sequoia. It was originally mahogany. Now it's Sequoia. I know that tree behind it is not a Sequoia tree, but it was part of the initial logo. So Sequoia is a very densely forested area. It's not very populated. There are some cities and towns along the outskirts of the forest, but they're not super populated, except for magical creatures. There are a lot of magical creatures in Sequoia that make the forest their home. Okay, so that's Sequoia. Now we have Bastriji. Bastriji used to be Paistris, now it's Bastriji, and it is best known for its amusement park. It has a giant amusement park, and that's what everyone goes to the sphere to enjoy. The amusement park has different areas centered around all the spheres in the Ultrasphere, and so that's pretty neat. It's not all that's in the sphere. It's quite forested outside that, and it's a very magical place, but most people go for the amusement park, and that's what they're best known for. So those are all the spheres with a name update. The ones that I did not mention did not get an update, and here are the ones that retained their original name. So Castellabria, the city of molten rock, Eutocritus, Vohelia, and Mortel. And I guess I'll just go briefly and talk about what each of those spheres are. So Castellabria, it's the other sphere that shares the same area as the Ark, and it's their main rival. They are very, they're an empire, and they're very militaristic and also religious. They worship the dragon, who is an important figure from their history. They are the dominant power within that area. Molten Rock also shares the same sphere with Castellabria and the Ark. They used to be a powerful empire, but now they're just a city, and their city is built into a volcano. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Vohelia, it's a steampunk-ish city, massive city. They are the new empire on the block. In the past few years, they have been in a period of rapid expansion, both technologically and also military-wise. So yeah, other spheres are very wary of Vohelia and their actions. Eutocritus is the high-tech area. They are the founders of the Ultrasphere. However, they have since become very isolationist and anti-technology sharing. So they prevent people from coming into their sphere, and they also prevent people from leaving. They're trying to keep their technology only with them. They don't want the other spheres to be able to develop and eventually compete with them. So they have essentially cut themselves off from the other spheres, at least culturally, but they still retain a powerful position within the Ultrasphere. And finally, Mortel. Mortel is the land of the dead. Why the land of the dead gets to compete in an international tournament is a lore story for another day. But just know that's really what they are. That's where all the dead souls go after they pass on in the other spheres. Alright, so those are the 11 spheres of the Ultrasphere and their updated names if they had any. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit more about the Ultrasphere and the lore behind it. I'm going to be doing some more lore videos in the future, and I really wanted to get these names down before I focused on actually using them in the lore. So that is all I have for you today. This video is already getting a little bit long. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Vicasal out.